Good morning. Today I am going to introduce you to the concept of integral calculus. And for that we'll be taking up chapter 7 of the NCERT, which is integrals. Now earlier in chapters 5 and 6 we have studied the concept of differential calculus. And you all are aware that differential calculus is centered on finding the derivatives and its applications. Now, a natural question which arises in our minds is that if we are given the derivative f dash, can we find the function f from which the derivative has been derived? So basically we have to find, or the question which arises is to find the original function f from which the derivative f dash has been derived. Okay, so given f dash, the corresponding function f, which is the original function, is called as the antiderivative or primitive of f dash. Okay, the formula which gives us the antiderivative is called as indefinite integral. Indefinite integral, whereas the process of finding the antiderivative is called as the integration. So I'll just quickly repeat. We are going to introduce you to the concept of integral calculus. Now let's start with differential calculus, which we have already studied in chapters 5 and 6 of NCERT. Now we know that differential calculus is centered on finding derivatives and its applications. So here the question arises that given the derivative f dash, can we find the original function f from where it has been derived? So given the antiderivative f dash, the original function f is called as its antiderivative or primitive of f dash. The formula which gives us the antiderivative is called as indefinite integral, whereas the process of finding the antiderivative is called as integration. Now such problems arise in various practical situations, like suppose we know that instantaneous velocity is a concept which we have studied in differentiation. So given instantaneous velocity, can we find the position of the object from where at which the instantaneous velocity is given? So can we find the position of the object at which the instantaneous velocity is given? Now this kind of questions and various other queries give rise to the concept of integral calculus. Okay, so basically there are the concept of integral calculus. The concept of integral calculus arises from out of two kind of problems. Okay, so arises out of two kinds of problems. First is the problem of finding the function. So problem of finding the function whenever the derivative is given. Whenever the derivative is given. Okay, and the formula which gives us this is called as indefinite integral. Whereas the second category or the second kind of problems which we deal with in integral calculus is the problem of finding the area under the curve or area bounded by the curve or the graph, area bounded by the graph of the curve under given condition. Okay, and the formula which gives us this is called as definite integral. So there are two types of integrals. First is the indefinite integral, and the second one is the definite integral, and together they constitute the concept of integral calculus. So this was a brief introduction of the concept of integral calculus. Now let us proceed with the with integration as the inverse process of differentiation. Okay, it's a very important thing which we are going to take up, that is integration as an inverse process of differentiation. Okay, now as we have already seen in differentiation, so in differentiation what we do is we divide the given function into smaller intervals. So function is divided and studied in small intervals, whereas in integration it's just the reverse process, that we put together all these small intervals, we put together or sum up or add all these small intervals and study the behavior of function in one big interval. So that's why we say that integration is the inverse process of differentiation. So as you can clearly see, it's a entirely inverse process. In differentiation we are differentiating or we are dividing the function into smaller parts, whereas in integration we are putting together or summing up or adding all those small functions or functions in those small intervals into a one big interval and studying its nature. Now, so what we see that instead of being given the derivative of the function, here in case of integration we will be required instead of being given the function and finding the derivative, here we will be given the derivative and we have to find the given function. So in case of differentiation, function is given and derivative is required to be found out, whereas in case of integration the derivative is given and the corresponding original function which is also called as antiderivative or primitive or original function is to be found out. Now let us consider the derivative of some standard functions. Like we know that the derivative of cos x is minus sin x. So we can write the antiderivative of minus sin x is cos x. Okay. Similarly, derivative of sin x is cos x, and so we write antiderivative of cos x is sin x. But similarly, we know some basic results like derivative of let's say x raised power of cube over 3 is x square. So antiderivative of x square will be equal to x cube over 3. But we also know that derivative of a constant is always equal to 0. So derivative of x cube over 3 plus any constant will also be equal to x square. Similarly, derivative of minus sin x plus c is also equal to cos x. Similarly, derivative of sin x plus c is cos x. Similarly, derivative of cos x plus c is minus sin x. Okay, so since the derivative of a constant is 0, if you add a constant to any of these functions, the derivative remains the same. So instead of writing the antiderivative of x square as x cube by 3, we can also write it as plus c, because no matter what value c takes, derivative of x cube plus upon 3 plus c will always be x square. Similarly, antiderivative of cos x will always be equal to sin x. Okay, we can also write it as plus c because the derivative of c is 0, and so derivative of this will always be cos x. Similarly, antiderivative of minus sin x will be equal to cos x plus c. Okay, so we can clearly see that antiderivative of a given function is not unique. This is a very important point which has to be kept in mind, because the reason is because the constant has derivative equal to 0. So even though given any function, its derivative is always unique, but the antiderivative is not unique. So we can get, when you find the antiderivative, we will get more than one functions will be antiderivatives of the given function. Okay, now in fact it's not even more than one, it is infinite functions will be derivatives, antiderivatives of the given function, and so this concept is called as indefinite integral, or is the antiderivative, and the process is called as indefinite integration. Okay, so indefinite integrals because there are infinite number of antiderivatives corresponding to a given function. Here C can take any real value, positive, negative or 0, and so correspondingly you will get different functions which give the same derivative. So we come to one more conclusion, that is derivative is unique and antiderivative or integral is not unique. And we write this as, now given a function, so we write it as, given a function f which is such that d by dx of fx, so we are given a function fx whose derivative is another function of x which is small fx, where x belongs to any interval I. Okay, also we have d by dx of fx plus c is also equal to fx, where c is any real number. Therefore we write antiderivative of fx is equal to antiderivative of fx is equal to fx plus c. Since derivative of fx plus c is fx, antiderivative of fx is fx plus c, and we write it as integral of fx dx is equal to fx plus c. So we write it, speak it as integral of fx is fx plus c, where c is called an arbitrary constant. And why is it called an arbitrary constant? Because it can take any value, any real value, positive, negative or 0. Now the process is called as integration. Okay, so given any function fx whose given any function capital Fx whose derivative is small fx, so we can write the fx, you add any constant c to it, its derivative will also be small fx, and so we say derivative of fx plus c is small fx. So antiderivative of this side will be equal to the function which is on this side, which is capital Fx plus c. We write it as this symbol, which is called as integral of fx dx is equal to capital Fx plus c, where this is called this is integral of fx is called is fx plus c, where this process is called as integration. Now let us just quickly take up some symbols, terms and phrases which we are going to study in this, use very often in this chapter, and the meaning of these. So symbols or terms or phrases which we are and their meanings. Okay, so when I write integral of fx dx, it means integral of f with respect to x. When I write in this symbol fx, in this symbol fx dx means integrand. It is called as integrand. X in this symbol fx dx is called as the variable of integration. Then we have, when we say integrate, we mean find the integral. These are some symbols, terms and phrases which we will be repeatedly using in this chapter, so you need to be very clear about it. Then when we say an integral of f, we mean a function capital F such that f dash x is equal to fx. When we say integration, we mean the process of finding the integral. And when we say constant of integration, we mean any real number c which is considered as a constant function. Okay, so let us now take up a list of all the basic derivatives which we studied in the previous classes and find the corresponding integrals. So let's see how. We know that the derivative of x raised by n plus 1 over n plus 1 is x raised power of n. So from this we can clearly write it as integral of x raised by n into dx. See, in case of derivative we write d by dx. So the corresponding symbol for integral is, you write the symbol for integral and then the function and then dx gets multiplied to it. So we write from here the integral of x raised by n is equal to x raised by n plus 1 over n plus 1, and plus we have to write the we have to add an arbitrary constant. This is something very important because we know that the integral or indefinite integral is not unique. So you have to write all possible values, and for that you have to always add an arbitrary constant. Now, so from here in particular we know that derivative of x, when you put n equal to 0, you get derivative of x as 1. So from here you get the corresponding integral as integral of 1 dx, which can be written as only dx. So integral of dx would be x plus c. Similarly, we know that derivative of sin x is cos x. So integral of cos x dx will be sin x plus c. Derivative of minus cos x is sin x, because we know that derivative of cos x is minus sin x, and so from there we write derivative of minus cos x is sin x. So the corresponding integral of sin x would be minus cos x plus c. Derivative of tan x is sec squared x, and so integral of sec squared x would be tan x plus c. Derivative of cot x is minus cosec squared x, and so we write derivative of minus cot x would be cosec squared x. From here you get integral of cosec squared x is minus cot x plus c. Derivative of sec x is sec x tan x, so integral of sec x tan x would be sec x plus c. Similarly, we know the derivative of cosec x is minus cosec x cot x. So, derivative of minus cosec x would be cosec x cot x, from where we get integral of cosec x cot x is minus cosec x plus c. Again, derivative of the inverse trigonometric functions sine inverse x is 1 upon square root of 1 minus x square, whereas that of cos inverse x is minus 1 upon square root of 1 minus x square. So what we can write it as 1 upon under root of 1 minus x square can be written as derivative of sine inverse x as well as derivative of minus cos inverse x. So that the integral of 1 upon under root of 1 minus x square can be written as sine inverse x plus c and also as minus cos inverse plus c. So depending upon the requirement of the question, we will use any of these answers. Similarly, we know that derivative of tan inverse x is 1 upon 1 plus x square, which is also the derivative of minus cot inverse x. And so integral of 1 upon 1 plus x square can be written either as tan inverse x plus c or as minus cot inverse x plus c, as the case may be. Again, derivative of sec inverse x and minus cosec inverse x is the same, which is 1 upon x square root of x squared minus 1. And so integral of 1 upon x under root of x squared minus 1 can be either sec inverse x plus c or minus cosec inverse x plus c. Again, we know that derivative of the exponential function e raised by x is e raised by x, and so integral of e raised by x will be equal to e raised by x plus c. So we can see that the function exponential function e raised by x does not change whether you differentiate it or you integrate it. Now, derivative of log x is 1 upon x. So whenever you get 1 upon x and you have to find the integral, you will replace it with log x plus c. Again, derivative of a raised power of x is a raised by x log a, and so we can write it as derivative of a raised by x upon log a is a raised by x. So integral of a raised by x dx is a raised by x upon log a plus c. So with these results, now these results you have to keep on writing out on a daily basis to be able to remember them by heart. Okay, so using these results, we can try out the exercise 7.1 and you all can easily do each of those questions of 7.1. Thank you.